On the night before my 18th birthday, my mother brought me a slice of birthday cake with a glowing candle and said, "Tomorrow, everything changes for our family." She thought I was smiling because I was excited to finally become an adult. What she didn't know was that 3 hours earlier, I had secretly met with an estate attorney and moved every single dollar of my late father's $1.2 million inheritance into a locked, irrevocable trust that she couldn't touch. Follow my story until the end, and comment the city or country you are watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. The next morning, Mom sat at the kitchen table with a smug grin, slid a power of attorney document toward me, and whispered, "Sign this, so I can manage your money." I'll never forget the moment her smile vanished when I told her, "It's already gone." My name is Quinn Everett. I'm 19 years old now, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that money doesn't just change people. It strips away every mask they wear. For as long as I can remember, my late father was my absolute rock. When he passed away unexpectedly when I was 16, he left behind a $1.2 million trust fund. It was meant to secure my future, pay for my college education, and give me a safe start in life once I reached adulthood. But the moment the soil settled over his grave, my home turned into a cold, calculated battlefield. My mother had always been a woman who lived far beyond her means. She craved the illusion of wealth, drowning in hidden credit card debts and leasing luxury cars we couldn't afford. After Dad died, her eyes fixed entirely on my inheritance. She didn't see a safety net for her child. She saw a bailout for her own mistakes. Throughout my high school years, she constantly referred to the fund as our money and the family reserve. As my 18th birthday drew closer, her behavior shifted from casual hints to an almost suffocating level of control. She suddenly became overly affectionate, constantly bringing up fake investment opportunities and talking about how hard it was to manage household expenses alone. I could feel the invisible net tightening around me, but I had no idea just how far she was truly willing to go. The truth finally unraveled 3 weeks before my birthday, on a quiet Tuesday night. I had woken up around midnight to grab a glass of water from the kitchen. As I tiptoed down the hallway, I noticed a harsh sliver of light spilling out from under my mother's office door. Then I heard her voice, sharp, hushed, and dripping with a cold calculation I'd never heard from her before. She was on the phone with Richard, her shady financial advisor boyfriend. I froze in the shadows, my heart hammering against my ribs. "The papers are almost ready," Mom whispered into the receiver, letting out a dark, breathless chuckle. "The second Quinn turns 18, I'll hand over the package." "Quinn trusts me completely, Richard. I'll tell them it's routine paperwork to protect against high inheritance taxes. They'll sign the power of attorney right there at the breakfast table before realizing what hit them." There was a brief pause as she listened to him, before continuing in that same chilling tone. "Once I have sign-off authority, we'll move the full $1.2 million into the joint account. We can clear my credit lines, put the down payment on the beach house, and Quinn will never be able to touch a dime." What are they going to do? Sue their own mother? Standing in that dark hallway, my blood ran ice cold. She wasn't trying to guide me or protect my future. My own mother was treating my late father's legacy like a jackpot prize, planning to drain every cent to pay off her debts and fund her lavish lifestyle. I quietly backed away into my bedroom, sat on the edge of my bed in the dark, and made a silent vow. I was not going to let her destroy me. The next morning, I didn't panic. I played the part of the oblivious teenager perfectly, pouring my cereal and smiling while my mother handed me a cup of juice, acting as if she hadn't just planned to rob me blind. But behind my calm expression, my mind was racing. I spent the next few days conducting a quiet, desperate investigation. I waited until Mom left for her daily spa appointments to search her office, hunting for my father's original trust documents, my social security card, and my passport. Deep in a locked drawer, I found the original legal files. That afternoon, I secretly called Mr. Harrison, the corporate lawyer my father had trusted for over a decade. His voice was a steady lifeline in the storm. I laid out everything I had overheard. Mr. Harrison blew out a long sigh and confirmed my worst fears. As my temporary legal guardian, my mother had positioned herself to seize full management access the minute I reached adulthood, unless I acted first. "There is a tiny legal loophole," Mr. Harrison explained quietly over the encrypted call. "Right at the cusp of your 18th birthday, at midnight, your legal status shifts. If we pre-draft an emergency irrevocable trust transfer, you can execute it the very second you turn 18, completely bypassing her authority." The plan was set, but executing it required nerves of steel. On the night before my birthday, under the cover of pitch-black darkness, I waited until I heard my mother's steady snoring from down the hall. At 11:15 p.m., I slipped out of my bedroom window, creeping down the side porch with my backpack glued to my shoulders. Mr. Harrison was waiting around the corner in his parked car, holding the notary stamp and the finalized legal shield that would decide my fate. Inside Mr. Harrison's sedan, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The only light came from the dim dashboard display counting down the final minutes of my childhood. Spread across his lap were thick, crisp pages of legal documents, the emergency irrevocable trust transfer that would lock my father's $1.2 million far out of my mother's reach. My hands trembled as I held the pen, staring at the digital clock. 11:58 p.m. 11:59 p.m. The second the numbers flipped to midnight, marking my 18th birthday, Mr. Harrison nodded. "You're officially an adult, Quinn. Sign." I pressed the pen to the paper and signed my name on every designated line. The notary stamped each page with a sharp, heavy click that echoed like a sigh of relief in the quiet car. With a few swift keystrokes on his laptop, Mr. Harrison submitted the certified electronic filing directly to the bank's trust division. The shield was ironclad. Under the terms of this new, irrevocable trust, the full principal was completely locked away. Not even I could withdraw a lump sum, and any power of attorney document my mother tried to force on me would be legally worthless. The fund was set to issue me controlled quarterly payouts specifically for my college tuition and basic living expenses. Clutching the official, stamped confirmation receipt, I slipped back through my bedroom window at 2 a.m. My heart was pounding against my ribs, but as I tucked the paper safely under my mattress, a profound sense of peace washed over me. The trap was sprung, but I was no longer the prey. The next morning, the smell of fresh bacon and cinnamon rolls drifted into my room. I walked into the kitchen to find my mother wearing her fakest, sweetest smile, a freshly brewed cup of coffee waiting for me on the counter. "Happy 18th birthday, my beautiful child," she chirped, pulling me into a tight, suffocating hug. But before I could even take a bite of food, her expression shifted into a practiced, serious look. She reached behind a fruit bowl and slid a thick manila folder across the marble countertop, placing a gold pen right beside it. "Now, sweetheart," she began, her voice dripping with synthetic maternal warmth, "before we open presents or celebrate, we need to handle a little grown-up responsibility. This is a standard power of attorney and asset management form. It just gives me the authority to handle your father's trust so you don't get hit with massive taxes. Sign it right here, so we can keep our family secure." I looked down at the paper, then looked her straight in the eyes.
"No, Mom. I'm not signing that."
Her sweet smile instantly vanished, replaced by a sharp, dangerous scowl. "Excuse me? Don't be foolish, Quinn. You don't know anything about managing money. Sign the paper now." Instead of arguing, I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out the certified, stamped confirmation receipt from the irrevocable trust, and slid it across the island. "You're a few hours too late," I said calmly. At midnight, I transferred the entire $1.2 million into a locked trust. You can't touch it, Richard can't touch it, and no power of attorney in the world can open it. I will never forget the way the blood drained from her face. Her eyes widened in pure, unadulterated shock as she read the legal stamp, her hand shaking so violently the paper rattled in the quiet kitchen. The silence in the kitchen shattered into absolute chaos. For a few agonizing seconds, my mother just stared at the document, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Then, the realization hit her, and her face contorted with an ugly, terrifying rage. "What have you done?" she screamed, slamming her palms onto the marble counter so hard the coffee cups rattled. "You ungrateful little brat. After everything I've done for you, you go behind my back and betray your own family?" The mask was completely off now. She wasn't acting like a concerned parent anymore. She was a desperate woman watching her financial lifeline evaporate right in front of her eyes. She grabbed her phone with trembling hands and dialed the bank, barking orders at the customer service representative and demanding they void the transfer. But Mr. Harrison's legal shield was flawless. Every time she demanded access, she was met with cold, impenetrable legal brick walls. When she threatened to sue the bank, the manager calmly informed her that attempting to force access to a private adult trust could trigger an immediate fraud investigation. Panicked and out of options, she turned back to me, trying a mix of furious guilt trips and desperate sobbing, begging me to undo the paperwork so she could pay off her mounting credit debts and keep her luxury car. But I remained a brick wall. That afternoon, I didn't stay to watch her crumble. I packed up my clothes, my father's old photo albums, and my essential documents into my car. With my secured quarterly allowance officially set to cover my tuition and housing, I drove away from that house forever and checked into my college dorm room early, finally free, finally safe, and completely independent. It's been a little over a year since that fateful morning, and the dust has finally settled. Without my father's $1.2 million inheritance to bail her out, my mother's carefully constructed illusion of luxury completely collapsed. She was forced to sell our childhood house at a loss, liquidate her designer wardrobe, and move into a small 2-bedroom apartment across town. Her shady boyfriend, Richard, vanished the second he realized there was no payday coming. For the first time in her life, she had to face her debts head-on, taking a real job to cover her own living expenses. We haven't spoken since the day I packed my bags, but I hold no hatred in my heart, only relief that I stood up for myself when it mattered most. As for me, my father's trust has done exactly what he intended it to do. My quarterly payouts cover my college tuition, my books, and my modest apartment near campus. I'm studying business administration, working hard, and building a future rooted in honesty, independence, and hard work, completely free of debt and toxic manipulation. Protecting my father's legacy taught me that standing up to family is terrifying, but protecting your self-worth is priceless. Now, I'm curious about you who listened to my story. What would you have done if you caught your parent trying to steal your inheritance? Would you have secretly locked the trust like I did, or tried to confront them first?